Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Oh my goodness, it's finally here. Firearms Friday, the final Firearms Friday for 2025. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the program. It is the Michael Duke Show, and oh boy, howdy, are we ready to go? It is, man, I'm all kinds of excited. I just, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself for the next few days here as we get ready to jump into it. Good morning and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. 11 whole degrees down here on top of the world in Homer, Alaska. Looks like 10 below up in Matsu, up on Kanick-Goose Bay Road there by where Rick is. And probably cold around the state. It's a little chilly out there. And that's okay. That's, that's okay. It's not 10 below here. So I feel good about that. I'm just, if I wanted to share with you guys, I just wanted to let you know 8 below on Wasilla Fishhook, and we'll get some more weather reports here as we go through. But it's just a clear and beautiful day. 26 below in Fairbanks, 9 below in Kenai. 11 degrees in Seldovia, across the bay here for me. So we're all in the same boat. We're all feeling it. A little chill, a little cool, a little white Christmas, a little goodness going on. You should feel good for me. Thank you, Rick. Rick just said, I feel good for you. It's good. I appreciate that. I worked hard for that. I just worked hard for that. Well, guys, this is it. Today is the day. Today is the final day of 2025 for the Michael Duke Show. We're going to be delivering alternate programming in Fairbanks and up in the interior and down on the peninsula for the remainder of the year. And just a reminder, nobody starts sending me messages at 6:00 on Monday when I'm not on the air. Okay. Because I'll be asleep. I'm gonna admit, I already know what I'm gonna do. My people's like, where are you going on vacation? Nowhere. I will spend the entire 15 days in bed. That's what I'm gonna do. That's a lie, but you know what I mean. I'm gonna do the things that you're not supposed to do. Spend way too much time sleeping in, eat bad food, watch way too many movies and shows, play video games, hang out with the kids and the family, go do fun stuff around town, and basically just rot my brain. That's what I'm trying to take a little R&R, a little rest and relaxation. And I'm looking forward to it. My wife will be sick of me by the time this whole thing is over. I guarantee it. It'll be like, could you please go back to work? Please. Although as a business owner now who's self-employed, it has dawned on me that of course I can't take off everything. I still have things to do every day that to keep the lights on and to keep things rolling and to keep it's always something, always a little bit of something that you have to do every day. Yeah, 7 days a week, just because that's kind of how it rolls when you're doing that. And not complaining. I just think it's interesting to experience it in that way for the first time. So it's gonna be great. All right. Well, my friends, today is Firearms Friday. And it's the final Firearms Friday of the year. I've said that already. But today we're going to dive down into something. I mean, I wanted to try and keep things as non-political as possible. And thankfully, Brian, who is kind of my wingman here in the chat room, helping me with things, is always kind of feeding me some good stuff every now and then. And he is a big fan of Substack. And I have, there's some great stuff on Substack. I just haven't had the time to kind of like peel through Substack, and find and subscribe to all the great authors that are out there. Substack is kind of the new media in many ways. But he did find me an article, and he forwarded it over to me from a math nerd named Holly. Now, I'm not using a pejorative. That's actually what she has as her name on Substack, Holly Math Nerd. And she is a mathematician, and she writes about a variety of different things. She has no political agenda, and she has written this article called "The Reality of Nationwide Gun Control: The Math Behind the Policy." And I always find it interesting when people take something that is so political and they break it down into, just kind of like kind of a mathematical or statistical analysis of these things. And I'm going to do something today that I would not normally do. And I'm essentially going to read you or paraphrase this article to you. And put some of my own, with some of my own commentary baked into it. Because I'm trying to stay non-political. When it comes to firearm stuff, I will struggle with that a little bit because, again, it's one of my most passionate subjects. And so I thought that by sticking to her script, so to speak, and only throwing in a few different things, a few different ideas or a few different pieces of commentary, that I would hopefully remain politically neutral on this. That's my hope, because, as I talked about yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before? The days all blend together this week. This week has just been a whirlwind. But as I spoke about here in the last couple of days, my hope for you is that while I hope that you pay attention to what's going on around you, I hope that you plug into it only in as much that you understand what's going on and you have a grasp of it, but you don't focus on it and you have the ability to turn it off, right, when you need to. And that's the way I've been every year for the last 15 years at the end of the years. And I'm just kind of politicked out, and I just want to, and we've had a lot of great discussions about Christmas time and holiday memories and family and so many other things that I feel uplifted by the end of the show this year. It's been a great time and a great discussion. I looked through some of the firearms headlines from around the country this morning, and nothing just jumped right out at me. We don't need to. I don't know as we need to dive down into some of the. I guess the good piece of news is that they finally found, or they say they finally found, the brown shooter. And they tracked him down because there was the shooting at Brown, and then there was a shooting of a professor at MIT about 50 miles away, which the feds assured us had nothing in common. They were not connected. And then it turned out that they tracked this guy down from the shooting at MIT, and now they're saying that he was the guy that, So I just question everything. That's all I could say is question everything. deny everything, question everything. I mean, I don't know, be ungovernable. That's what I'm saying. But that's really the only, piece of good news that I feel like, we can talk about at this point. We'll get more details and information on that here in the future. But he was a he was a Pakistani national. He was a Portuguese. I'm sorry, not Pakistani. He's a Portuguese national who had been studying physics at Brown and apparently attended classes at the professors in MIT. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But that's really was the only story just worth mentioning and glossing over. There was nothing else to come with today. So we're going to go into that. Oh, and I forgot. We've got the holiday recipe contest that I'm going to have to choose a winner on today. Let's see. I won't choose a winner in hour one. So that gives you another little bit to enter a recipe onto the contest page, or to go vote for some recipes on the content page, to have your favorite friends or what looks like might become your favorite recipe win. Right now, was refreshing the page. Right now, it looks like nope, same number as yesterday. So it looks like right now that Chris and Amy are both neck and neck for the title for this year's contest. Although Eggnog Pie from Tawny has come up a couple clicks, so we'll have to see. We'll have to see what that looks like. So we'll wait until, guys in the chat room are going to have to remind me. We'll wait right before we go on with Willie at the bottom of the next hour to pick a winner on the holiday recipe contest, which several people had encouraged me to start again this year. And ironically, those same people did not put a recipe up on the page. I think they were just here to freeload off us and get all the good recipes. I'm just saying that's probably what it was. They were just here for the free recipes. That sounds like communism to me. But anyway, it's not getting political, folks. I'm just joking. It's a joke. Also, don't forget, final thoughts as we get ready to wrap up here before we jump into all of our gun goodness. We'll be off the air from Monday, and we'll be returning to the air on Monday, January the 5th. And then finally, I hope you come out this weekend on Sunday at 1 p.m. If you live down on the Lower Peninsula and you don't have anything else going on, I hope you'll come out and join my family and I as we celebrate and go watch the Muppet Christmas Carol at the Porcupine Theater, which is being sponsored by the radio station. That's right. We sponsored a movie. Never done that before, but it's sounds like fun. So come on out and enjoy it. Get into the holiday spirit and just be part of it with us together this weekend for a chance to just to enjoy and hang out. It'll be fun stuff. So come on out this weekend, 1 p.m. at the Porcupine. You can get your tickets at the Porcupine Theater. Go to porcupinetheater.com and just click on the Muppets there, and you can get your tickets and be ready to go. All right. We're good. We're gonna jump into this here and start talking a little bit about the reality and the math behind a policy of nationwide gun control from Holly, Math Nerd, over there on Substack. And let's get into it here, shall we? We're going to take a quick break, And when we come back, we will return. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking holiday radio. Merry Christmas. I'll be back right after this.
It's the Michael Dukes Show.
Oh, it's a magical Christmas time again. Your kids are counting on you.
Yeah, Dad.
Now, if only someone would do something for you.
Honey, headache. Oh.
Streaming live every weekday morning, 6 to 9 a.m. on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Thank you guys for joining me this morning on this bright and beautiful day. Merry Christmases to all you great unwashed conservatives of the 6 o'clock club, says Kevin. How did you know we're unwashed? Have you smelled us recently? Yeah, where did the year go? Where did the week go? Where did the year go? Great, crazy. Good morning. Merry Christmas to everybody. Rick says, explain Substack, please. Substack is the 21st century equivalent of Blogspot. It's just a collection of blogs and articles that people write for whatever they care about. Kevin's got a Substack. I know that Greg Sarber's got a Substack called Seward's Folly. I follow that one. BJ Campbell's got a Substack. It's called Hand Waving Freakoutery. That's a fun one as well. Who else have I got? I follow a couple of them, but man, there's just not enough hours in the day to go out there and search through Substack. There's a lot of great art. Oh, Suzanne Downing has a Substack out there as well. She's done stuff out there as well. Anthony said, I see brown shooter being a problematic moniker on multiple fronts. Touche. I see what you're saying. Probably shouldn't have used that phraseology, but it is what it is. Rick said, on a sad note, Greg Biffle and his family killed in a plane crash. I didn't even know who Greg Biffle was until yesterday. So, but it's tragic, right? It's tragic for sure. Oh yeah, Josh McCose has got a Substack, which I've already reached out to Josh, and we're going to talk with him in the new year, and it'll be interesting. You have to sign up for it or what? I know you don't. Well, maybe. I think I just created an account so I could track all the Substacks that I follow. You don't have to pay for it or anything. It's just why am I explaining it to you, Rick? Type in Substack.com and go look. There you go. Substack.com. Sarah Montalbano. That's where she's got her Montalbano Mondays is on Substack. Again, it's just a wow. Long week, a long year. It's just a gathering place. There we go. It's just it's all over there. Okay. Anyway, it's a good place to go. You can go check it out. But you should be able to just go over and read one, browse whatever you want. I think I created the account because I wanted to be able to follow somebody. I think if you want to follow somebody, you got to think, no, I would say JD2 Chili has the Rattler is a Reason thing, not a Substack thing. But yeah, that's exactly it. Substack is basically Reddit for non-sociopaths. It's but it's not. It's not like a forum post where you had all these back and forths going on. It's you write an article and then people can comment on it or whatever else. Kevin's got one. Kevin McCabe's got a Substack. I don't have a Substack because I don't have time to go out and write all those things. I've written exactly like 3 newsletters in the 8 years that I've been doing the show with Patreon and everything. I was supposed to deliver more newsletter, and I just never have time. I would just rather sit down and talk with you guys rather than. Anyway, it's good. And yes, Brian has posted several Substacks to the Common Sense Core. So you'll find some great stuff. There's some good authors. Is Gatto out there? What's the guy's name with the cat? It's not John Taylor Gatto. What's the guy's name that has the cat one, Brian? That one's always fascinating and funny. Can't remember the guy's name right now, but there's his whole Substack is cat themed. It's hysterical. Anyway, there you go. But we're going to start off with Holly Math Nerd, and we're going to get into this, and we'll spend the next 25, 30 minutes going over this. Gatto Mail, that's what it is. Gatto Mail. It's great. Gatto Mall. Okay. Let's do it. Okay. So let's dive into this here. Again, this is in my attempt to try and remain as non-political as possible today, because that was my commitment. My commitment to everybody was this last week would not be about politics. And I think we pretty much accomplished that. I thought we did well. I'm self-congratulatory, patting myself on my own back, but I just feel like we did pretty good for this week for non-thing. In an attempt to remain that way, we're going to kind of just follow this article over here on Substack, which is again Holly Math Nerd's study. She's a mathematician, and does a different analysis. I mean, I looked at her Substack. The stories are all over. There's all kinds of crazy stuff, talking about all kinds of different things. There's some really interesting people. We were just talking about Substack with the chat room during the break. There's some really interesting people on Substack. BJ Campbell is another one. He writes a Substack, which we have referenced frequently on this program, called Hand Waving Freakoutery. And he is also he's a mathematician, an engineer. He's another one of those very analytical minds who looks at things from a different point of view. And I just find it fascinating when you get somebody who's got this real academic viewpoint of looking at things and picking them apart, not from a place of emotion or even philosophy, but of more of statistics and reality and numbers and math and everything else. And it's a fascinating thing. So let's get started talking about the reality, the math, the numbers behind the reality of nationwide gun control. And again, I'm just going to kind of read through this, paraphrase. I'll stop and try. I'll sidebar, and I'll try and be very clear when it's my words and not Holly's words. But I mean, I would love to have a conversation with Holly sometime. I think this would be so interesting. She says, a mass shooting occurred at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island on the evening of Saturday the 13th. If you think the lesson of what happened there is that we need nationwide gun control, I want to persuade you of something uncomfortable but important. You really don't want that. I promise you that you don't. And if you keep reading, I think I can explain why. She continues to say, I've been to that campus a couple times, and so I followed the news more closely than I normally would. And in the midst of the usual commentary, I started seeing a familiar argument repeated in various forms. The commentator would acknowledge that both the state of Rhode Island and Brown University itself already have very strict laws and rules for governing firearms. Again, this is where I thought to myself, wait, criminals break the law already? That just seems unusual. That shouldn't be what it is. She continues, from there, the conclusion followed naturally. Therefore, we need nationwide gun control. These local restrictions are said to be meaningless because a would-be killer can simply go to New Hampshire or Vermont and buy a weapon with ease. She says, I understand why this argument feels compelling. But before accepting it, we need to be honest about what nationwide gun control, quote unquote, would actually require in the United States as it exists today, not as we might wish it to be. She says, I want to address this argument, but not in the usual ways. I'm not going to invoke the Second Amendment. I'm not going to point out that people willing to violate laws against murder are not ideal candidates for obeying laws. None of that. She just leaves it to the plebes like me to bring that up about criminals at the Second Amendment. I mean, because they're tried and true points, but nobody, it's like we've made those points so many times. Criminals don't follow the law. One more law is not going to stop it. We make those points so many times that people just they just glaze over. They don't hear it anymore. So she's not going to take that tack, which I appreciated, which I really appreciated. She said, none of that. Instead, I want to talk about the cold, pragmatic reality of what people who think that they want nationwide gun control are actually asking for. Estimates of the number of privately held firearms in the United States vary, but they consistently point in the same direction. The most widely cited international benchmark, the Small Arms Survey, estimated about 393 million civilian-owned guns as of 2017. Already more firearms than people, roughly 120 guns per 100 residents. Since then, ATF manufacturing and import data indicates millions of individual firearms entering civilian circulation, with recent production-based estimates placing the total closer to 490 to 500 million guns. Now, sidebar for me, again, the 2017 Small Arms Survey, I think, still undercounted and underestimated. And with guns that haven't been reported or bringbacks from the war or ones that they've got in grandpa's, cellar or attic, I've estimated that there's something closer to like 750 million guns in this country. I did the math about 8 years ago and thought, boy, it's got to be closer to this based on ATF numbers and everything. Anyway, but let's just use 500 million guns, right? She goes on to say, survey data helps reconcile these figures. Only about 30 to 32% of U.S. adults report personally owning a gun, while roughly 43 to 51% of the households report at least one firearm, implying that ownership is highly concentrated. Those survey figures are also plausible, biased downward, because particularly in large states with stricter gun control regimes like New York and California, where respondents to the surveys may have incentives to underreport ownership, even if it's anonymous, right? You don't want to be in New York or California and be answering some anonymous survey and be saying like, yeah, I got tons of guns, because you just never know. Taken together and accounting for both the post-2017 growth and likely underreporting, a reasonable and conservative working estimate is approximately 450 million privately held firearms. And it's reasonable to describe more than half of U.S. households as having access to at least one gun. She goes on to say, I'm one of those gun owners. There's a Sig Sauer under my bed. I bought it with the specific and conscious intent of using it to kill myself if and when the electrical grid went down for good, what some people refer to as a solar kill shot. At the time, I was convinced this was a real and serious risk, and I was not willing, as a deaf woman living alone, whose hearing aids would last no more than 24 hours without power, and who would then be functionally helpless, to leave myself without the means for a sure, swift, lethal exit. It's like, well, that turned dark, like real quick, right? But again, she working these things out. She goes on to say, I should probably sell my gun. I am in no danger of using it to harm anyone else, but depression remains a major concern in my life, and I have every major risk factor for suicide except sex and age. I haven't sold it for reasons I won't go into here. I mention this only to make a very specific point. I am a textbook marginal case. There are no laws that can prevent me from owning a firearm. I have never been adjudicated a danger to myself or others. And yet, if the decision were up to most people rather than me, they would probably try to find a way to deny me. I am not, and never have been, one of the gun nut types whose identity is bound up with gun ownership or the Second Amendment. I grew up in Mississippi and was raised by those types, so it's a culture I know well, despite having left it at the earliest opportunity. I sense a little bitterness there from Holly, but, it is what it is. Having established both a national perspective, the reality of 35% more guns than people, and more than half of the U.S. household having access to at least one, and the personal one, I want to move on to some cold facts. When people advocate for nationwide gun control, what exactly are they asking for? What specifically would be required to happen to get nationwide gun control? She said, if that's going to mean anything, nationwide gun control, if it's supposed to be more than a slogan, it has to be defined in operational terms. No aspirations, no values, mechanics, logistics, physical reality. What specific action actual humans would have to take with their human bodies in a material world? She goes on to say, in a country with roughly 450 million privately held firearms already in circulation, nationwide gun control cannot mean preventing future purchases alone. I want to repeat that. In a country with 450 million privately held firearms already in circulation, nationwide gun control cannot mean preventing future purchases alone. Even a total ban on new sales would leave hundreds of millions of existing weapons untouched for decades. So the policy people are implicitly calling for is not regulation at the margin, but the systemic reduction of the existing stock of guns. Now, that requires locating them. There's no way to meaningfully restrict, reclaim, or eliminate privately owned firearms without first knowing who has them and where they are, which means a comprehensive national registry, mandatory disclosure of ownership, backed by penalties for noncompliance with mechanisms for verification. Anything less is symbolic. This is where the skin on the back of my neck started to crawl, okay? Because she's 100% right. When people just go on and on about, oh, we need nationwide gun control, or we need this, and oh, we just need a background national, universal background check. Nobody ever steps through all the steps of what that would actually mean and what that would actually look like. That's why this article really hit me, because, man, she walks through it step by step. Right? What specific actions would actual humans have to take with their human bodies in the material world to make this happen? She goes on to say that once the registry exists, enforcement becomes unavoidable. Some people will comply, many will not. Some will be confused, some distrustful, some quietly resistant. The resistance is not an edge case. It's a certainty at this scale. And at that point, enforcement ceases to be abstract. It becomes door to door. That's the moment where nationwide gun control stops sounding like a policy preference and starts sounding like a domestic enforcement regime. Warrants, searches, seizures, follow-ups, informants, penalties for concealment, escalation when compliance is refused. There is no clean or frictionless version of this process, and no serious proposal pretends otherwise once you spell it out. And none of this is a moral argument yet. It's simply an amoral, practical, realistic description of what would be required to create nationwide gun control. You cannot meaningfully reduce the number of guns in the United States without building a system capable of finding them, compelling disclosure, and forcibly removing them when people decline to cooperate. That's the quiet part people skip past when they say nationwide gun control. The question is not whether this system would reduce gun ownership in theory. The question is whether this is a system we actually want to create and empower in practice. Any nationwide gun control regime capable of meaningfully reducing the number of firearms would require an enormous expansion of police authority, not in theory, but in daily practice. Once ownership is registered and compliance becomes mandatory, enforcement necessarily shifts towards investigation and coercion. Police would need expanded powers to stop, question, search, and investigate people based on suspected noncompliance. Tips and reports would become routine. Failure to answer questions would itself become suspicious. Silence would be treated as concealment. And this is not a speculative concern. It's how enforcement works when possession of an exceptionally common household item is criminalized. And it's far more power than even most pro-police advocates say they want officers to have. And it would also be enforced unevenly. Always has been, always will be. People with money, lawyers, and social capital would comply on paper or quietly evade enforcement. People without those buffers would bear the brunt of searches, raids, and confrontations. The same communities that already experience disproportionate police contact would experience more of it, not less. Disabled people would be at particular risk. She says, I am deaf. I do not wear my hearing aids 24 hours a day. If someone knocks on my door, I may not hear it. If police announce themselves verbally, I may not hear it. If commands are shouted from outside my field of vision, I may not hear them at all. This is not hypothetical. This is my normal daily reality. Now, place that reality inside an enforcement regime where police are authorized to investigate suspected gun possession, execute searches, and escalate when compliance is not immediate. Failure to respond becomes resistance. Failure to hear becomes defiance. Delay becomes threat. This is not an edge case. This is real. I told you, this thing is just, wow. Wow. We're gonna come back to this in the next segment. We're gonna finish this up because she continues to break it down. It's fascinating article. We're going to continue here, the Michael Duke Show. Chris Cheng coming up at the top of the hour, finishing up with Willie Waffle next hour. We'll be back with more right after this.
It's the Michael Dukes Show.
Oh, yeah. Feeling this holiday thing. Give me some nog.
You can fake your holiday spirit, or you can just try to find it for real. Happy holidays. Good luck with that. Streaming live every weekday morning, 6 to 9 a.m. on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Let me go back over here to the chat room to see what you guys are saying. Good morning. 40 below in Delta, says Zach. Oof, man. Dang. Good morning. Civil engineer, hydrology. That was it. Yeah, El Gato Malo. He also killed the IT professor targeted. I misunderstand about the $200 tax on silencers, but not the registration. Yeah. 450 million legally owned firearms, says Anthony. Let's not forget that those aforementioned criminals probably aren't reporting their guns. Yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, this, yeah, kind of crazy. That gets political real quick. It can get political real quick. I mean, that's the thing. But I think, again, she comes back to the numbers and to the actual mechanical, physical, what has to happen. Gordon, like the backhanded comment / passive aggressive insult. Good breakdown for sure. The reason I listen to this podcast, even though I think you may be too liberal. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. God bless you, Gordon. God bless you. Oh yeah, El Gato Malo doesn't like capitalizing letters. Drove me nuts at first. I know when I was first reading the first article that I read over there, I was like, "Oh, my brain is hurting. He doesn't capitalize anything." Anyway, I'm the guy that uses underlines and italics and everything to make emphasis and points when I write things, and it just drives me. The guy uses almost no he uses punctuation, and that's it. There's no formatting. But he's got some interesting things right there to write about over at his Substack as well. I mean, one day there'll be a Substack where I can just I can just rant on a dissertation and it'll just transcribe it for me, and then I'll have a Substack where everybody can read. Although I'm sure it will read horribly because the spoken word and the written word come across a little different. A little different, that's for sure. Frank said, I misunderstood last week's show about how the $200 tax on silencers. The big beautiful bill did rescind the tax, but not the registration. I know, and that's the problem. Their justification for the registration is through taxation. That's their justification as their congressional justification. They do it through their power to tax. When they take the money off of it, it's no longer a tax, but it's still a registration. Does that make it constitutional? That's the big question. That's the big question, Frank. That people are asking these days. Because again, it has been challenged on its constitutionality, and it was the Congress's power to tax that allowed it to get by in the first place. That was the whole point when it was all said. Cats. That's so true, Ben. Cats wouldn't punctuate. They don't care whether you can read it. Oh man. Let's see. Just use AI to write your story, said Chris. Hey, look, I use AI tools every day. But even when I have it help me with writing and stuff, I still write the full thing, right? If I'm going to write a commercial for a client, I'm like, I've got all my pieces and parts, and this is pretty good. And then I'll go back and say, rewrite this, and and it'll rewrite it, and then I'll take bits and pieces of it and I'll incorporate it and I'll make a whole out of it. You can't just depend. You'll lose all your, it's like you can't do that. Besides, AI doesn't write things very well to begin with. It has good turns of phrase and some things like that, but it's great. Frank, I saw that yesterday. Somebody was trolling the Fairbanks, Alaska Facebook group where they were like, we're gonna collect samples of your displaced snow, and we're gonna analyze the snow and figure out where it came from, and then we're gonna fine you. That was just somebody stirring up some trouble. Okay, we're going to continue on with this story from Holly here in just a moment, and then we should be joined by we should be joined by Chris Cheng at the top of the hour, which I should nudge Chris real quick. How much time do I got? No time. I'm going to miss this music. I'll be honest. I'm just going to miss the Christmas music because there's just something about Christmas music that it just makes me happy. I don't know. I'm going to miss it when it's. I always do. I always feel a little bit of a letdown after Christmas, and I've been listening to so much Christmas music, and I'm so in the mood this year. It's good. All right. We're continuing now this discussion since it's Firearms Friday and the last Firearms Friday of the year. And I was attempting not to get too political. And I came across this article, thanks to Brian over in the Common Sense Corps, who pointed me towards Holly Math Nerd over on Substack, who is looking at this discussion on the reality of nationwide gun control from a mathematical perspective, a mathematical, if you wanted X, how do you get there? Solve for X. What do you do? A plus B plus C. What does it take to get there? So in an attempt to stay non-political, I've been kind of paraphrasing and reading and going through her article with a few comments on my own. I'm trying to stay, again, not get too political about it. Before we went to break, she was just talking about what happens because she's a deaf woman living alone. What happens if they come to her door to ask her for her gun and she doesn't hear them? She goes, that's not a hypothetical, right? Failure to respond becomes resistance. Failure to hear becomes defiance. Delay becomes threat. This is not an edge case. It's what happens when broad enforcement authority meets human variability. She said the same is true for people with mental illness, cognitive disabilities, language barriers, or simply high distrust of law enforcement. I don't know anybody like that. Every additional power granted in the name of public safety multiplies the number of ways ordinary, nonviolent people can be harmed by mistakes, misinterpretations, or fear-driven escalation. Supporters of nationwide gun control often speak as if the law itself does the work, as if guns disappear because a statute exists, right? And this is the same kind of thing we've talked about on the program, that people who go out and buy a gun to protect themselves and just assume that it's a laser shield and now they're protected, right? That's not how it works. The gun does not just disappear because a new law has been enacted, a new statute exists. That's not the laws are enforced by people with weapons, under stress, making split-second judgments. Any honest discussion of gun policy has to reckon with that reality. If you're not willing to reckon with this reality, you do not actually want nationwide gun control. You want to signal that you care and to feel better. And you know what? That's fine. She says, I want those things too, but be honest about it. If you want nationwide gun control, this is the reality you must face. Granting the state the power to search homes, compel disclosure, and forcibly confiscate property at this scale is not a neutral act. It reshapes the relationship between citizens and police in ways that do not stay neatly confined to the policy that justified them. This is the cost side of the ledger that rarely gets discussed and never gets discussed clearly when people say that they want nationwide gun control. Then she goes on to talk about going beyond increasing police power. Because even if you set aside the policing problem, nationwide gun control runs headlong into technology, the technological reality that can't be legislated away. Guns are no longer just manufactured objects. They are designs, files, instructions. Once something exists in digital form, it cannot be uninvented. And once firearms crossed that threshold, the idea of permanently eliminating them became impossible. A serious attempt to enforce nationwide gun control would therefore have to go far beyond existing weapons. It would have to address the means of making new ones. That does not stop at factories or licensed manufacturers. It extends into private homes. At minimum, that means regulating or confiscating 3D printers. Not just industrial ones, but consumer-grade machines that already sit on desks and workbenches across the country. It means criminalizing the possession of certain digital files, monitoring their transmission, and enforcing penalties for people who share or store them. In other words, gun control becomes content control. There's no clean line to draw here. If the concern is that a person can fabricate a weapon at home, then the tools that allow that fabrication become a target. Printers, CNC machines, milling equipment, software, eventually even raw materials. New weapons can be fabricated, old ones can be hidden, parts can be stockpiled, files can be mirrored and reshared endlessly. Every year requires renewed monitoring, renewed enforcement, renewed penalties. Critically, none of this requires imagining bad faith on the part of the state. It follows logically and directly from the scale of the problem and the nature of the technology involved. If guns must be eliminated, then the capacity to make guns must be eliminated. And if that capacity can exist anywhere, then enforcement must exist everywhere. At some point, the question stops being about guns and starts being about the kind of society required to ensure their absence. It stops being about guns and it starts being about control. That's what I say. That is the quiet part people do not say out loud. She goes on to talk about the cost. At one point, she's like, if they were to seize, because you run into a constitutional problem, you cannot seize something from somebody without the takings clause. You cannot do that. If the government takes private property through seizure, it must provide compensation. And if you've got a $500 gun or a $600 gun, and you got 450 million private firearms, that's $270 billion. That doesn't include ammunition, accessories, ancillary equipment, 3D printers, anything else. That's just the guns. You should go over and read this article for yourself. You just, you really, really should, because it is not a political article. It is a fascinating look at the mechanics of what it would take for something like that. I'm going to go ahead and I will post this up on my post this up on the Michael Duke Show Facebook page. I'm going to post it at the top of the page, and we'll get things. You can go read it for yourself, and you should, because again, fascinating read. Okay, that's it. We're at the end of the hour. Damn, that was fast. Wow. Chris Cheng's going to join us here in just a bit, and then we'll finish up with Willie Waffle, the final Michael Duke Show for 2025. We'll be back. Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. Again, all that presupposes that no criminal activity will happen beyond that, Gordon. That's part. I mean, again, she said she's not even addressing that. She's not even addressing that. She's coming at it from a completely different standpoint, but she does acknowledge that at the beginning that's going to be part of the problem. All right. Snow flurries for Christmas in Fairbanks and 5 degrees will be a gift. I don't know. It was a 40 below in Delta this morning, right? Isn't that what Zach said? 40 below in Delta. Chris would not even know what to do with himself at 40 below. He would curl into a little ball and cry for his mommy. California. What is it? 80 degrees in California right now? I don't know. Isn't that what Rod Pyle said earlier this week when we were talking to him from LA? And it was, I think he said it was 80 degrees or something. I don't know. Let's see what Chris has to say. How warm is it there?
It is maybe 62 degrees in San Francisco.
Oh my God. Do you have to put on a sweater? Is it sweater weather at 62 degrees?
Yeah, it's really cold. It's
sweater weather. It's sweater weather. Oh, my friend. How you doing, man? How's it going?
Yeah, things are good. It's been a nice holiday season. Lots of time with family and friends. Going to be going up to Seattle for some family time for Christmas, and
oh, nice.
Yeah, it's going to be wonderful.
Well, I got to tell you, if folks don't follow you on, God, I don't know if it was Instagram or Facebook. Must have been. Maybe it was Instagram. I don't know. I felt so bad for. He goes out for his birthday meal. Tell me your birthday meal. Tell me about your birthday meal, man. I went out there and I was like, wow.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Well, so yeah, my husband and I, we go out to this very famous 3-star Michelin restaurant. I'm not going to name names here. I named it on Instagram. I'm going to be respectful and not name names here, but it is a quintessential institution here in San Francisco, 3-star Michelin, which is one of the best restaurants in the world, ostensibly. So, boy, we go, and it was just a big disappointment. It was a lot of tweezer food, and the food looked pretty, but it was lacking in flavor, and the textures were off, and a lot of heavy, fatty sauces on everything. I mean, it literally made me feel ill. Sometimes tweezer food works out, but this was just like it's French style, high gastronomy with sea foam, blah blah blah, whatever. And we ended up we went from 3-star Michelin to 0-star Michelin, and we're still hungry after dinner, so we got takeout Chinese food and basically had second dinner after this whole thing. So,
which was more delicious than that you spent 10 times the amount at the at the restaurant or what?
Exactly. I actually ran a quick calculation. The Chinese food was 3% of the cost of the expensive 3-star Michelin dinner.
Oh man, that's just insult to injury. And I noticed that you named the restaurant. Did they reach out to you by any chance? I was just curious if they reached out to you.
No. I actually emailed them to give them direct feedback to let them know. Because look, I'm a big proponent of small businesses, right? So food critiques these days can it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, right? So as a diner, I want to know where the good food is, right? And
Absolutely.
You have a lot of these social media influencers who are basically marketing shills for the restaurant, right? They show up with their cell phone and their bright lights or whatever, and they are extracting free food from the restaurant in exchange for this glowing review, even if the food's not good. And I hate those. I hate those kind of social media posts because it's not authentic, right? You're just hearing, oh, this new dish is amazing. It's like, where are the honest, right, critiques about some of these restaurants?
I want a guy to come in and say, I was really expecting great, but this is just mediocre. I got it for free, but it's still mediocre. I mean, that's what I want. And I think honestly, as an owner, I think I'd want that too. I think I'd want the feedback. Now I wouldn't want.
Yeah, and that's the most important part. Is like, look, when it comes to, I'm a foodie, right? So when it comes to food, if the food's not good, and if I were a restaurant owner, I would want to know and hear from customers, all right, well, why is it not good? Like, do you just not like this type of cuisine? Or is there actually something that could be improved about the dishes? And that was the approach that I was trying to take is, don't layer all of these dishes with heavy, greasy sauces, right? It just didn't add, right? So especially if your star ingredient of the dish is something kind of like soft and delicate, like a white fish. That's right,
Right.
flaky and like delicate. You don't
Yeah.
want to bury it with some sort of, bury it with foie gras and top it with caviar, and then have some, like heavy,
That's a
greasy sauce
that's a
swimming
weird
around.
that's a weird
It
combination
is.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, but that was the approach that they were taking. It was just a
Yeah.
lot of let's just throw luxury items. Let's shave white
All right.
truffles on it just because. It's like white truffles don't make any sense on this dish, right? It was like
All
that's
right.
how like riled up I was getting in this during this
Hold
meal.
on. Hold on. I got to jump back into the radio. I can tell he's getting riled up about it. I shouldn't have brought it up. Jeez. All right, hold the line. Here we're going to go. The Michael Duke Show.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not be infringed. Firearms
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Take my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
That's right. Firearms Friday. It is the final Firearms Friday. Not forever final Firearms Friday. It's the finale final. It's I'm just trying to add another F in there. It's the end of the year. This is our final show of the year. And what better way to kick off the end of the year to celebrate than to talk about firearms and gun goodness? And who better to have with us on that than our good friend, the man, the myth, the legend in his own mind, Chris Cheng. He's a legend. Hello, my friend. How are you doing? What's happening?
Hello. I'm delightfully well. You look quite jolly.
I decorated this whole studio. I mean, I don't know, Chris. You ever had those years? And today is going to be, we're going to talk about some gun stuff, but we're not going to get too heavy into it. I asked Chris to bring his Christmas hat today to, well, not literally, but to, put his Christmas hat on and think about that. You ever get those years where some years you're just totally into it? Christmas, like you feel it, and then some years you're kind of like, meh, right? I mean, some years are that way. This year has been, I started listening to Christmas music like Halloween, and I just been going. I mean, it was early, but I needed it, man. I don't know. I was just feeling down. I was like, oh, I need to feel, and man, it feels so good. I'm almost afraid of the letdown after Christmas. You know what I mean? I'm almost afraid to come off the high to where I'm going to crash, afterwards. But it's going to be great. Christmas in California has got to be. In fact, we were watching something yesterday, my wife and I was like, man, Christmas in California has got to be so weird. No snow, no cold, no nothing else. I mean,
Well, it's all relative. It
is relative. Yeah,
it's cold here in San Francisco. We've got a ginormous and gorgeous tree in Union Square, and there's an ice skating rink, and it's very festive. I'm very happy to report that San Francisco, we're back. Tourism is up, crime is down, the mood is very jovial and festive. There's people all on the street, a great time at bars and restaurants and shopping and everything. So it's quite a festive holiday season. I'm also very much into Christmas this year. Unlike you, I started listening to Christmas music the day after Thanksgiving, which is kind of the proper time frame, I think, to start listening to Christmas music. This is very much in the vein of, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Oh, hell yes, Die Hard.
Yes, of course. So
I love you so much right now.
You're welcome to listen to your Christmas music around Halloween. I mean, just a little dare I say strange, but you know,
It was the day
tis
after
the season.
Halloween. I was just following the Walmarts because they just the day after Halloween they put the Christmas stuff up, right? So I mean,
Oh boy, okay, I see.
you know, it was interesting. I was actually, what's funny is that I was actually reading some stuff from my consultant for the radio stations, because I have a consultant that helps me program things and do things. And he actually had an article that came out on Halloween or the day before Halloween that said, you know, when is it too early? Essentially, when is it too early to start playing Christmas music? And he looked at the statistics and he was looking back at it, and he's like, it's not too early. That's the thing, because people want that. They're looking for comfort. They're looking for nostalgia. And he actually said he pulled the Spotify the statistics and showed that in that week before Halloween, that 2.6 million people had played Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas in that week. And he said, and it just goes up. The history shows us it just goes up from here. It's crazy.
Right. Okay, so but to sort of pressure test right, when is it too early to start listening to Christmas music? So I used to go to the Philippines once a quarter for work. And one trip I went in September. In the Philippines, they start celebrating Christmas in September.
Wow.
Is September too early to start listening to Christmas music and to set up your Christmas tree? All the malls are decorated in Christmas, ornaments in September. You're seeing
might be a little early.
You're seeing Christmas themed commercials on TV in September in the Philippines. And for me, that's way too early. So, right,
Yeah.
September's maybe too early. I mean, September is too early.
Okay, all right.
Halloween, I don't know. I guess right now that we have this other anchor of September, I guess Halloween doesn't sound so weird. I mean, it's still weird, but not so weird, right?
And then somebody said the other day, they're like, I don't start listening until a week before Christmas. In fact, I don't even put any decorations up until like 2 days before Christmas. I'm like, okay. I mean, you do you know, I just wanted to get into it and talk about it. We should brush up against some firearm stuff here. I just finished up, and I was just going to email you this, and I should have actually sent this to you earlier, and I apologize for not. But and we can get into this when next time we meet and visit, we can get into this. But I just read a fascinating Substack from a mathematician over on her name is Holly Math Nerd on Substack, talking about what gun control would actually look like, not from a political standpoint. She's completely apolitical about it, but from a mechanical, statistical and mechanical viewpoint. And it really is just a fascinating read, and we're seeing a lot of that. We saw the Brown shooting, of course, the thing that happened in Bondi, and of course, everything else that's gone on in this country. And all we ever hear about is, well, this just means we just need nationwide gun control. But nobody ever really analyzes, what does that, you say that, but what are the mechanics to get there? What does that mean with 500 million guns in this country? What does that mean? What would it actually take? And it's a fascinating discussion. Have you ever thought about that when people just blurt out, well, we just need more we just need nationwide.
And I talked, I mean, I'm interested to read this article that you're referencing, because once you actually start thinking about you pose the question, how would a government impose a maximalist version of gun control, right? And there's sort of these main pillars, which would be confiscation, which is obviously the prime for civil rights, Second Amendment advocates like us, right? Like the government would try and come and confiscate firearms. That's kind of pillar one. Pillar two would be a buyback program. Right. And I mean, that would probably be first, right? The government, initiate a buyback program, try and encourage as many citizens to voluntarily turn in their firearms. Maybe they even start collecting information from these people, like, hey, who else do you know in your neighborhood right, that owns a
Right.
firearm, right? So there could be an information, kind of collection phase as well. And so, but then this, right, building the database, right, building a database of gun owners, and then right, executing search warrants and confiscate, literally probably kicking doors in. I mean,
Well, that's the thing. How much would you have to build up the police state? The
Mhm.
police, the mechanisms of police for, for enforcement, for surveillance, for information gathering, for everything else to be able to get to that enforcement part where they could confiscate. And again, a buyback, she does the math on this thing, and it's over $250 million if you want to talk about trying to buy back, or $250 billion,
Wow. Yeah.
$270 billion, estimating 450, 500 million guns at 600 guns, $600 a crack. And that doesn't count accessories and ammunition and everything else. I mean, they can't just take it, and the Constitution prevents that. I mean, up now maybe they could change that. I mean, who knows? It's really a slippery slope. And as we've seen just recently, they tried that. They keep holding up Australia as an example, and that's not working.
Yeah, and I read a very interesting fact this morning in a BBC article about the Bondi shooting, and now the gun control schemes that are being initiated in Australia again, right? And so this was in the context of, right, Australia has announced a new buyback program, and look, 30 years ago in 1996, right, they did a buyback program. But the interesting fact that the government is now saying is that there's 4 million firearms in Australia, which is more guns than that existed than back in 1996. So, right, they implemented this massive gun control restriction scheme back in 1996. Yet 30 years later, they have more guns now than they did before they put in the gun. So, right, it's just this gun control mindset. It just, like you said, it doesn't work. You've got 3D printers who are empowering people to also make their own firearms with 3D printers, and of course, even before 3D printers, you could sell firearms at home with pretty simple, basic tools and materials.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, again, because I think if I'm not mistaken, the number of firearms that were bought back in 96 in Australia was 600,000. I think they bought back 600,000 firearms in 96, I think is the number. But again, what happened shortly after that? What happened in the decade following that? They had a huge upsurge in crime in the major cities, Melbourne and Sydney, and they were busting biker gangs for basically taking over machine shops and cranking out machine guns. That's what they were doing. I mean, that again, criminals. It's just, that's the thing. And she definitely avoids the argument about criminals not obeying the law, but it's the one thorn in the side. It's the oil in the ointment that makes it all thing. Criminals don't care about whatever law you put forward.
Yeah, that's right. Our laws and rules that we create is like, it's almost like we're living in a different world than criminals, right? Criminals, they have a healthy disregard for the law, right? They don't really, they are, whatever their goals are, right? Whether it is to rob, injure, kill, they are just focused on their goals. And the law is they're just sort of speed bumps, inconveniences, I think, for a lot of criminals. So, I mean, look, it's obviously, like, we need to have some laws in terms of murder is illegal. I mean, like having some core laws, right, that criminalize murder, homicide. But right, once we start backing into more complicated and into things like gun control schemes, right? These kind of laws, while they feel good, right? I think this is back to right. It just, for a lot of gun control advocates, it's a very emotional and emotionally driven argument. Right. And if you don't think about it too much, right, that, oh, gun control sounds reasonable, right? It sounds feasible. It sounds easy. Like, let's just stop let's just stop the sale of certain types of guns. Let's ban the AR-15. Let's just stop the sale of standard capacity 30-round magazines. Oh, that sounds easy, right? But if you're not a gun if you are a gun person, we all know how absurd all of that sounds. So but this, and of course, this is the rub, right? This is the rub. This is the debate of our time when it comes to the Second Amendment, is pushing back on these gun control schemes.
Yeah,
making the argument.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, making the argument, right, that the founding fathers created this civil right, the Second Amendment, to take power away from the government and give it to us, the people, in order to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. And what's really fascinating from a cultural perspective here in America, I have a lot of liberal friends here in San Francisco, and
sure,
I've right kind of told them for lived here for almost 2 decades now, right, that the Second Amendment is a key protection against a tyrannical government. And for decades, people did not really understand or believe that the government could ever be tyrannical. But over the past 10 years, things have really changed, right? Over multiple administrations, seeing the kind of not just words coming out of our past mouths, but the actions, right, taking place, whether it's anti-Second Amendment activity, whether it's a lot of, irrespective of what your opinion is about the immigration stuff, some people see that as tyrannical behavior, right? A lot of my liberal friends, right, are very, very upset. And personally, I think we're not going about the immigration piece in the best way we should either. But the point is that a lot of my liberal friends are now seeing why the Second Amendment might actually be a reasonable defense against a tyrannical government, because we're seeing tyrannical activity continually take place amongst many of our leaders and elected politicians in the United States.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy. And again, they say things like nationwide gun control, and she makes this point in her article. She said, that what you really are saying, you don't actually want nationwide gun control. What you want to signal is you want to signal that you care and you want to feel better. It's your way of trying to solve the problem without thinking about the underpinnings of what you're saying. And that's the whole premise of this article, is that you're looking at it and you're saying you don't realize that when you say you want X, all the steps that it takes to get to X, and that if you did understand those steps, you would be vehemently opposed to it, because it could be used to then do the same thing to you, not necessarily just about guns, but about anything. And it's a fascinating discussion. Chris Cheng is our guest. You can find him at topshotchris.com, by the way. His book, Shoot to Win, is out there. He's working on his new book, which I am just desperately waiting for a copy, advanced reader copy of, to look at. I want to read it. It's about the Purple Heart Brigade during World War II. It's a fictionalized historical novel, and we're going to talk a little bit about that when we come back. But we are up against the break, so let's continue in just a moment. Oh yeah, man, in the lounge, just hanging out, just doing our thing,
just lounging.
I know, just a little Christmas lounge music for you here. Chris Cheng, our guest. We'll be back with more right after this. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, holiday radio. Ho, ho, ho.
Consume, expand, obey. Happy holidays.
It's the Michael Dukes Show.
We're just here to stir things up. You're going to send me that BBC article. I'd love to read that, to add that to my lexicon.
Yeah, let me find that.
Yeah, because that's
I was literally just reading it right before I came on here.
All right.
But anyway, yeah, I'll send that to you.
Yeah, send it to me when you get a sec. That'd be good. And then I sent you that other article, and we could talk about that again next month when we come back, because I think I'm going to keep coming back to this article, because she is so deadpan on this. She is so apolitical and just talking about the actual mechanisms, and it's just a fascinating breakdown of it as well. Ben Carpenter in the chat room, former state legislator, makes a valid comment, and I'd love to get this position. Love to get your take on this, Chris, because again, you're talking about your liberal friends living in liberal California and liberal San Francisco, right? He says the left defunds the police, but wants nationwide gun confiscation. Perhaps it's not actually about guns, and I think sometimes their slip is showing, right? I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. It's not necessarily about the guns. They obviously want to defund the police. They want to do. I mean, there's some different agendas that are going on here.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But there is a schism, I would say, in the liberal, Democratic Party, specifically with law enforcement and this whole defund the police notion. And I'll speak firsthand with what's happening here in San Francisco. So, a few years ago, there were definitely some voices, political voices calling for defunding the police. And some money was moved away from SFPD to like other community-based programs and whatnot. But, the city and residents of San Francisco reached a low point. And in terms of tolerating crime, right, and being soft on crime, seeing all of these criminals run rampant in Walgreens and Target. If you come to Walgreens or Target in San Francisco, there are many of them where almost all the merchandise is locked behind like cabinets, like right. Clear plastic. You need to press a button. If you want to get your stick of deodorant, you got to press a button and wait for an associate with a key to come and unlock the panel so you can get your product. And this is an anti-theft measure, which, sure, it's reasonable for the store to do that, but why should the store have to do that in the first place, right? When these shoplifters, they aren't arrested, they aren't prosecuted. And so San Francisco residents, thankfully we reached our threshold. And so I would say there's been a notable swing in the direction of law and order in here and supporting the police. SFPD and the sheriff's department, they're I'm seeing successful numbers in recruiting, right, new officers, new deputies. So and people are, residents and small business owners are clamoring for more police officers to be on the street enforcing the law. So but then you contrast that with New York, right? New York City, right? I mean, very liberal. They just elected a socialist for a mayor. I would say they're behind the times. They're behind the curve. Yeah. I mean, I think the hammer is going to come down on New York City. And I love New York City, but I don't know. We're going to have to see what Mamdani actually does compared to what he campaigned on with regards to law enforcement and public safety. So we'll see.
I wish I could crystal ball New York and look 10 years in the future and see what it looks like, because I mean that's going to be, it's a fascinating social experiment.
Just watch Batman, and it's called Gotham City. That's
Gotham. Yeah, exactly.
Turn into.
Well, I find it interesting. Like you said, California has gone through this huge spree in the waves and stores closing down and the flash mobs coming in and busting up stores and ripping stuff out, running right by police cars parked outside. And, look, there's no atheists in a foxhole. All those people may have thought, theoretically, no police would be great. But the reality runs right up against that. And that's where we get to the difference between the theory and the reality. It's a fascinating discussion. All right. Well, let's lighten it up. We're going to come back here to Chris. Apparently, Brian made a comment about you could rat out your family when we were talking about gun confiscation. You can rat out your family for $5,000 so you can buy meth or a PS5. And then he got booted for 30 days from Facebook for using the word math. Just for mentioning math. It wasn't math, but All right. That's free speech for you, man. Here we go.
Yeah. Yikes.
It's the Michael Dukes Show. Here's you in about 5 minutes.
Oh no, I haven't started shopping yet. Oh no!
Happy holidays. Take it easy. Streaming live every weekday morning, 6 to 9 a.m. on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. All right. Crazy stuff. Chris Cheng is our guest here. Top Shot Chris, my buddy from San Francisco here. We've been talking a little bit about gun control and more, but we're going to do a little Christmassy stuff now. Chris, you taking some time off on the holidays to work on your book a little bit to finish it up? Because,
Yeah.
I'm anxiously waiting here, buddy.
I'm very excited to say that my manuscript is done. And yeah, and so I'm meeting with a marketing person on Monday. Next steps around I need to find an agent who will then hopefully find me a publisher. So there's still a lot of steps ahead of me in terms of getting this book on shelves. But this novel that I'm writing about the Purple Heart Battalion, it's a group of Japanese Americans who were incarcerated during World War II, and they volunteered from these prisons in America. They volunteered for the U.S. Army. And the Purple Heart Battalion is the most decorated unit in United States military history for the size and duration of the service of the unit. And nobody knows about them, right? Nobody knows about this incredible story of these are boys, 18 to 22 years old, right?
Yeah.
They chose to prove their loyalty to America when FDR signed Executive Order 9066 and unjustly and unconstitutionally jailed 120,000 Americans of Japanese descent and threw them in incarceration camps.
Yeah.
No due process. And so even though our country betrayed our values, the men of the Purple Heart Battalion fought for America, helped defeat the Nazis along with all the other allies that we had. But the Purple Heart Battalion, they stand out again because of all of the commendations that they received. 21 presidential medals of freedom, almost 10,000 Purple Hearts awarded to the battalion. And they fought some of the most difficult and challenging battles in Italy and in France. I can't wait to get the Purple Heart Battalion story out there. My hope is 20 will be the year. This is a war novel, right? So this is very much a guts and glory, plenty of guns and the weaponry of World War II. And I wanted to bring my weapons expertise to the story and to really help the reader understand what it's like to shoot an M1 Garand, what it's like to shoot an M1 carbine, right? A BAR, right? To bring that realism into this onto the battlefield, and to develop and to really shine the light on these characters who were really my characters are fictionalized, but they are based on true soldiers, real soldiers from the Purple Heart Battalion. They were the 442, the 442 regimental combat team was their formal title. So they were the 100th Battalion. They sort of had two monikers assigned to them, but the 442s are sort of more commonly known as the Purple Heart Battalion. It's just an incredible story, and I can't wait to get it out there.
No, I can't wait. I mean, World War II is one of my favorite periods of history, of American history, as far as, again, the guts and glory, kind of the America coming together and fighting back. And it is fascinating. And this, I was just always so aghast about FDR's, move there. And the fact that these young men, instead of being angry and, fighting, and resentful and everything, they decided to show through example that they are true Americans, and I can't wait to see that. What's your Christmas traditions here, Chris? We got about 3 minutes. What are you? What's your biggest Christmas tradition that you're going to follow this year?
My family is like a lot of families. Things have changed over the years. Relatives getting older and and passing away, and so some of the old traditions unfortunately die with them, and so that means new traditions have to be formed. So, typically I celebrate Christmas here in San Francisco because my mom's extended family is here. But this Christmas, we're trying something new. And my sister lives up in Seattle, and she's got a 2-year-old. And yeah, so we're all going up to Seattle, and we're actually
bring your hip boots and your scuba gear. Apparently, it's a
yeah
little wet and floody in Seattle right now, but yeah, it should be
yeah.
it'll be good.
But we're gonna spend it part of the time at a hotel that's all like decked out and Christmas, Christmas ornaments and regalia and whatnot. And yeah, it's gonna be I don't know. We're trying things out, but like most holidays, it's not so much about where the location where we are. The most important part is that we're together and we're celebrating the holidays together, and thankful that we have that opportunity to congregate and be together as a family.
We got about a minute here, Chris. You got a New Year's resolution for yourself that you care to share with
Well,
everybody?
let me actually answer a different or tell you another fun thing, that back to Purple Heart Battalion. So I'm trying to win an M1 carbine on Gunbroker, and it is made by IBM. Right. So one thing that's so fascinating about World War II is that our entire industrial complex just rallied around the war effort. And you had IBM, right, who makes computers and semiconductors. Like, they retooled a lot of their everything on carbine rifles. So
man, that's some great stuff. All right, Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion. Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Merry
Appreciate
Christmas
you.
to you.
Second here. Folks, we got more coming up. Willie Waffle, dead ahead, The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. All right. Sorry about that, Chris. I had
no worries.
I'm on a timer there. I got to get to a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, IBM was building them. AC Delco, GM, they were building machine guns and grease guns, and the M3 grease guns, and Sears and Roebuck. I mean, like you said, every manufacturer in the country was retooling to pop out pieces, parts, guns, aircraft, engine pieces. The whole country was dedicated to a war effort.
It was really amazing to see. It was just a different time. I was at dinner last night with some friends, and yeah, they were asking me, kind of how my manuscript on the Purple Heart Battalion was coming along. And we were talking about how, World War II was just such, in many ways, an amazing time for our country, right? Where we rallied around a very simple and singular cause, right? To defend freedom, to fight for freedom. And not just on our home soil, but in Europe. Yeah. And it's been a long time for us here in America since we've had that unifying moment. And I think 9/11, right, was the most clear incident in recent memory, right, where just the whole country came together. Unfortunately, I think it's going to take another catastrophe or disaster or terrorist attack. I think that's sort of the natural course of history, right? It's going to be something bad happening to a country or to a people that will bring us together, put our differences aside. And as much as I don't want anything bad to happen to our country, but in terms of unifying us like we were unified in World War II and after 9/11, right? I think history will tell us time and time again that there's going to be another bad thing that will happen that will bring us together and hopefully set our country on a better path. All right. And when I say a better path of being respectful, being kind, using less emotions in our arguments and maybe more logic in our arguments. I mean, not to say emotions have their place, but let's think and use reason around what we're trying to do in this great American experiment.
Yeah. Brian Cherry just said Rockola, the jukebox company, built guns as well. And LD Howard said Smith Corona, the other typewriter country, IBM and Smith Corona are both typewriters at the time. They made them as well.
Nice.
But it was the it's some crazy stuff out there. But you're right. I mean, and I think it's interesting, the parallels. Pearl Harbor happened. The whole country came together, and we dedicated the entire country to the war effort. 9/11 happened. The country was attacked. And yet the country came together, but it didn't focus the entire, it was different, right? It didn't focus the entire nation to become a machine to fight this enemy. It kind of became an afterthought. And I think that's kind of part of the problem, is that you have a whole generation of people who knew we were attacked, but didn't really participate. They didn't see it in their daily lives. There was no rationing. There was no ration cards. There was no, industry swooping in to build the biggest war machine the world has ever seen. I mean, there was some similarities, but there's also some wild differences. And like you said, I think it will take something of a kind of a Pearl Harbor with a singular enemy that would force us to kind of go into that direction again. It's a fascinating discussion. Like I said, I can't wait to read the book. I really can't. And so hurry up. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. The Purple Heart Battalion is a story and a project I've been working on for 5 years now. And I'm very excited and anxious to get it out the door. But, I also do want to do it right. And we'll see
absolutely.
what happens. Let's see what happens.
All right, my friend, I wanted to hit you just one more time here for the end of the year, because I love to see you smile, and just let you know that there's certain things out there.
Heck yeah.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Duke Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that.
I just love to see, every time we just love to see a smile on that. So it's good.
It is one of the best clips ever.
It is so good. My friend, I wish you and your husband, your family, I wish you guys all just the merriest of Christmases. And I just hope you have a great time. Are you feeling better, by the way? I meant to ask you that early on. Your health seems to be...
I'm getting there. Still a lot of ups and downs, but yeah, thank you for asking. Health is one of obviously just the most important things for all of us. And I'm on the mend. And very Merry Christmas to you and your family as well. And I hope you have a wonderful Christmas holiday.
All right. New year, man. I get to take some time off here, and you and I will be back in the new year. So it's good to hear you, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon here.
Take care.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on board. Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion. Season 4 of the show Top Shot. Man, that brings us to the end of it. That is like the fastest. This has been the fastest of fastest shows today. Just got to say. Phone's ringing. Let's get to it. Oh, man, it's so Christmassy in here. I don't even know what to do with myself. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com, comes on every week to share with us the news of the entertainment world and so much more. This week, as I've been promising, he's going to bring us some Christmas stuff as well. He can't see the Christmassy stuff behind me, but I decorated the whole studio and everything. It's just all great. We can't wait. Final show of the year here, Willie. What are we kicking off, my friend? Where are we starting here on this whole thing?
I have some big news for you.
Okay.
Shocking news.
Okay.
News that is rocking Hollywood.
All right.
It was announced just 2 days ago. The Oscars are leaving ABC. And you know where you're going to see them? Guess where you're going to see them? Take a guess.
Netflix.
Close. Netflix was bidding on it.
Okay. Where are they going?
You're going to see in 2029, because ABC has a contract through 2028. Starting in 2029, you will be watching the Oscars on YouTube.
No way. Really?
Yes.
That's surprising.
Yes.
That's a little shocking.
It is a little shocking. And there's a couple of things that are going on here. I mean, first of all, YouTube doesn't have any production facilities. Like, they don't make anything themselves. So how are they going to do the Oscars? Now,
right.
The argument that people have made is, we don't know a lot about the deal, but there's two things that people said are probably true. Number one, YouTube probably offered a ton of money, and the Academy went, yeah, we like money. The second thing that they've argued is because they don't have any production facilities or production staff like an ABC does, the Academy may be taking over a lot of the production and having more control over it, and therefore controlling the message, making sure that nothing embarrassing gets out there. Now, they said they're going to do some stuff, that you can do on streaming that you can't do on ABC. They're going to have more behind the scenes coverage. They're going to have more red carpet coverage, probably multiple streams, so you can kind of flip between whatever one you want to kind of see and watch at the time. They're going to be running from 2029 to 2033. It's that will be, by the way, if anybody's keeping track, 2029 is the 101st Oscars. So ABC at least keeps it through 2028 and gets that 100th Oscars, which I think will probably, be somewhat important.
Right.
I think you'll still get, some, what's the word I'm looking for? You know what I'm talking about. But, I think that's pretty interesting. And I think what's going to make it even more interesting is, ABC has always kind of had a role in getting a host, right? Jimmy Kimmel, he's an ABC guy. He was a host. They had connections with Billy Crystal and other folks.
Right.
Well, who does YouTube have any connections with? Again, that's where the Academy steps in and says, well, we'll really provide the host, somebody we like.
Well,
so it could be very interesting.
Could be very interesting. I'll see how it changes. It'd be interesting to see how it changes going from network television to full stream, because that opens them up to a whole new audience at that point.
And that's what you hit the nail right on the head. It's not only the new audience, but it's a more international audience. Everybody can watch YouTube at the same time. You don't have all the rights issues that you have where, one place broadcasts it in Japan, but maybe not live. And same thing with maybe some of your other, say South American countries. I mean, so literally everybody's just going to watch the Oscars at that time. And they're going to have a massive audience. I think they're realizing that, the increase in the international audience will help them tremendously, since we know the American audience has been dwindling and it's going to be streaming ratings. Those are all a bunch of big fat lies. Nobody really knows what happened.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, so we'll have to wait and see. I still won't be watching the Oscars, so I mean, that's me at the end. I mean, I'm not the movie guy that Willie is, so we'll be doing it. All right. Well, let's move over to the news, and there's not a whole lot of news. Of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Rob Reiner. He and his wife, of course, were killed by their son this week. And I mean, it's horrific. And I don't really have anything else to say about it other than that. I'm not going to be political about it. I just think it's a horrific tragedy for sure, but it does have some ramifications as well. Give us that real quick here.
Well, yeah, Rob Reiner was a prolific producer and director, and he had made one last movie. He has made it's in the can. I don't know if they've quite finished doing all the editing. It was scheduled to be released in 2026. It is, get a hold of this, the Spinal Tap at Stonehenge live concert film.
Okay.
So they did This Is Spinal Tap 2, which came out in September and is on streaming right now. Well, they had also done a big concert at Stonehenge. And if you're a Spinal Tap fan, the joke is in the first movie, they did a whole thing about Stonehenge. And so they've made it come true. They actually, and I'm not lying, they actually staged a concert at Stonehenge.
Wow.
And not only did they stage a concert, they had some guest stars with them. Shania Twain, kind of a big name.
Right.
Josh Groban, kind of a big name. And then this is the one that rocked me. Eric Clapton.
Wow. That's kind of a big name. Right, exactly. Yeah. So they had this in the can, and now they're what? They have to put it on hold?
Well, they put it on hold. So Bleecker Street Studios are the distributors, and they basically said, listen, given everything that's going on, we're going to put this on pause. We're going to kind of, wait and talk to the family when it's appropriate. We're going to figure out what they want to do. Now, I think that they'll say, listen, they want their dad's last movie to be seen,
Right.
and there's other people involved. I mean, this is a pretty tight knit group. I mean, these weren't just a bunch of guys who starred in the movie and Rob happened to direct them. They're all pretty close. They're friends with each other. I'm sure they're all going to pull together and say, let's make this one special. Let's remind everybody it was Rob's final movie, and we'll have a go at it. The other thing is he was still acting. And for people know, one of my favorite shows, The Bear, which is on FX, he had appeared in season 4. He was scheduled to appear in season 5, and they were about to start filming that. They were about to go into production in January. So, how they're going to account for that, because his character was somewhat important in season 4 and was kind of being set up to be extremely important in season 5. So we'll have to see what happens there too. But R.I.P. Rob Reiner and his wife. What a horrible, horrible tragedy.
Yeah, pretty tough stuff. Also tragic, of course, we talked about it last week briefly, was the release of the movie Ella McKay, which
yes,
turns out it was even worse than we thought. This is a film from, who is it again? Remind me.
This is James L. Brooks. The guy who created The Simpsons and Mary Tyler Moore and some of the most classic television ever done. And some pretty big movies too, and broadcast news. I think he was also Terms of Endearment. I mean, he's done big things. But Ella McKay will be known as his biggest disaster. So
go ahead.
There are people who track these things, and for a movie that was in a wide release, which in this case would be considered 2,500 or more screens, Ella McKay scored the 4th worst box office ever, at $2.02 million on 2,500 screens in America last weekend.
Oh my God.
Now here's what makes it worse. Of those 4 that are the four worst, one was the Scooby movie that came out during COVID and originally ran on streaming a year before it was released. So a lot of people are like, that doesn't even count.
That doesn't even count.
The second worst one was a movie called Reminiscence, which was also during the COVID era, released day and date on streaming and movie theaters. People say, well, that doesn't really count either. So it really is the second worst wide release in the history of movies.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well,
it's done.
It's done. Yeah, it's done. I don't think that, that's it doesn't get much more balmy than that one. That's for sure.
No.
All right.
Especially with the names that it had. I mean, there were big names.
Huge names.
They spent a lot of money advertising this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Jamie Lee Curtis. They had Woody Harrelson. They had a lot of people with this thing.
No, they didn't even make back salaries of one of those big stars. I guarantee you at this point. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move over because we got a couple movies, but I want to get into some Christmas stuff. I know you got some kind of offbeat Christmas stuff. SpongeBob. I mean, I love me some SpongeBob when I was a kid, but I really don't care about the search for SquarePants. Okay. So, I mean, you can tell me what it is real quick, but I just don't care.
I'll tell you really quick. It's a 2.5 waffle movie. It is very much for kids. The idea that SpongeBob and his buddy Patrick have been suckered into the depths of the oceanic underworld to follow this legendary ghost pirate played by Mark Hamill. But what they don't know is that the ghost pirate has something very bad planned for them. It's 2.5 waffles. It's crazy. It's zany. It's silly. There's not a lot of story here. It's really about just the funny little situations they get in along the way.
The third Avatar movie is out. I haven't seen the first 2. I don't really care about the first 2. I don't really care about the third one, but you're going to tell me how good or bad it is.
I feel like I've said this for every Avatar movie. I always said, it's going to bomb, and I've been wrong on the first 2, and I'll probably be wrong on this one. I've always said that, there's a lot of great, amazing, artistry going on. The CGI work and then the way they created the characters, I think is brilliant. It looks amazing, but the stories stink. And the dialogue stinks, and I feel that's where I am with this movie here.
Right.
We're kind of picking up this big legendary story that I don't know how many people can even tell you what the stories were in the first 2 movies.
Right.
So I'm at 1.5 waffles. I just I'm not excited about it.
Just can't. Okay, that's about right.
Nope.
Now, Sydney Sweeney's been making a lot of headlines and press and news lately, and I like her as an actress. I think she's done good. I also like Amanda Seyfried. I think that she's pretty amazing. And they've got a new movie out called The Housemaid. Give me this one.
This is actually a really, really good movie. It's kind of just a good campy over the top movie. Not exactly a story for Christmas. A good kidnapping movie for the holidays was not what I was asking for. But it's Sydney Sweeney as this young lady who takes a job for this uber rich family as their live-in maid, and Amanda Seyfried is the mother and the wife, and she's horrible to work for. She's just dreadful to work for. And maybe Sydney Sweeney has a little secret she's hiding too. So as we go through the movie, we're trying to figure out what's really going to happen. They do a great job keeping you on the edge of your seat. You see the horrifying things Amanda Seyfried's doing. You see that Sydney Sweeney, she's got some secrets. You're wondering who's going to take advantage of who here, and that's what I like. I'm at 3.5 waffles. I thought it was really good.
Nice. And that one's in theaters. It's called The Housemaid. All right.
The Housemaid.
Christmas movies. You got some offbeat Christmas stuff and everything else. We got about 3 minutes here.
Okay. So I tried to get you stuff that maybe you haven't seen before, folks. Okay, hey, I love the classics too. Okay, you give me A Christmas Story, which I think is the greatest Christmas movie ever made, I'm there. You give me It's a Wonderful Life, I'm there. But there's also something else I like. I like kind of the movies about the misfits, the outsiders, the offbeat movies. Maybe you haven't seen these. Maybe you weren't daring enough to try to check them out when they came out the first time around.
Okay.
So I'm going to start off with Violent Night, which is available on Peacock. Have you heard of Violent Night, my friend?
Oh man,
we
watched this. This is so good. This is like on my top 10 list of Christmas movies now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So it is David Harbour as a drunken Santa Claus, a drunken, bitter Santa Claus. He really doesn't seem like he even wants the job anymore. But when he's delivering toys to a very, very rich family, it turns out that family is being taken hostage by some high-priced assassins, and only Santa Claus can save the day. And it's violent, and it's gory, and it's offensive, and it's over the top. And I'm laughing the whole way along, man.
Oh, it's a great one. That's a great one. Definitely. My wife just said to me the other night, she goes, we should watch that again. I'm like, yep, I'm down. Let's do it. All right. What else we got?
I'm going to give you another movie that came out a few years ago that a lot of people didn't see, The Holdovers. And this is a really great movie with Paul Giamatti. It's about him being this kind of curmudgeonly professor at this very rich New England boarding school in the late 60s. And it's Christmas time. And every year, one unlucky professor has to spend the off time watching over the kids who didn't have anywhere to go for Christmas.
Oh, man.
Maybe they were international students. They couldn't go home. Maybe they, who knows? There's all sorts of things. And he's the one who's been chosen, and he doesn't want to be there. And those kids don't want to be there. And the woman who's the head chef for the school, played by Divine Joy Randolph, who is so amazing, is there, and she doesn't want to be there. And we learn all about their stories, and they start to realize how much they can help each other.
That's great.
I think it's brilliant. It's really brilliant.
What do you give it on a waffle meter on that one? Just out of
curiosity.
Oh,
this is a 4 waffle. This is
a 4
wow.
Wow.
The Holdovers is one of my favorite. You can rent it through like Prime Video or Google TV or any place like that. Really, 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 really good.
I got to tell you, it came up on a list. We were talking earlier this week about movies, and I'd never heard of it. So now maybe we're going to have to break that out and check it out. All right, Willie. Well, thank you for this year, my friend, and have a happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We will catch you next year.
I will be back. I swear I will survive the holidays.
Folks, we'll see you in the new year. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We'll see you later. Yeah, no, the Holdovers was one of the movies because it was like top 100 Christmas movies, and I hadn't heard of a good half of them, and some of them I didn't even think were Christmas. Like Batman Returns is a Christmas movie. I mean, it was just it's just kind of weird, kind of things like, oh, just because it took place at Christmas, it's a Christmas movie. But I'd seen that one, and I'd never heard.
I do remember that. Yeah, that one. Yeah. There's all these fun little memes now. It's like, did you know Jumanji is a Christmas movie? Because when all the kids return, there's a Christmas party going on.
Oh, jeez. Jeez.
So I think it all comes from the Die Hard joke. The Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It's taking place like on Christmas Eve. He's trying to get back to his family.
Yeah.
This is Christmas.
Yeah.
Now, I think some of it's a stretch. I'm going to throw out one bonus for you if we got a minute.
Yeah,
we got about. Would really like this.
Got about 2.5 minutes here, so give us the bonus.
Okay. I'm going to give you. It is on Netflix. It is an animated film called Klaus. Have you ever seen Klaus?
I haven't, but I've heard about it. It was in that list, and I hadn't heard about it. Give it to me.
Klaus is a really great Santa Claus origin story that isn't super sickly sweet and sugary. It's really kind of ironic and very fun. I mean, like the whole family can enjoy it. The story is that you have a kid who's going to postmaster school, and he's the worst guy they've ever had. and they don't flunk him out because his father is like the head postmaster of the country. So they send him to the smallest, most remote northern post office you can ever imagine. Why, very far north, if you catch my drift.
Right.
And he meets a very reclusive toy maker who has all these toys but doesn't really do anything with them. Until one day, a letter falls out of the postage sack, and Klaus finds it. He's the toy maker. And he realizes, maybe these kids need toys. It's really good. And what's really funny, Klaus is voiced by J.K. Simmons, who is one of the great voice actors out there. I love him. I think he's fantastic. Jason Schwartzman is the postal flunky. It's just a really warm, fun movie, but not overly sick. It's not so obvious. I have always loved it. I think it's great.
I think that's great. We'll have to add that to the list for sure. And of course, if you're still with me, folks, Muppet Christmas Carol this Sunday at 1 p.m. at the Porcupine Theater. Where the radio station is sponsoring the showing, so come on out and join us.
That is awesome.
It's going to be amazing.
That is awesome.
It's going to be seeing under the big screen for the first time since it came. We went and saw it on opening night with my oldest daughter when she was 6. So this is going to be fun. All right, Willie. Thank you, my friends. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
You
Enjoy
bet.
it all. I'll see you in the new year, man.
My friends, we will see you then. Have a great Christmas time.